And welcome to this, the February 14th, 2025 meeting of the Ways and Means Committee. Let's all rise and recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. And before we get started, at the end of this meeting, we will go to closed session. And we will ask that everyone that's not involved in that, in the audience, our guests and our employees, that they would vacate the room. So we'll let you know ahead of time. So do we have any additions or changes to the agenda?
We did add 2 items under miscellaneous. That was the school resource officer request for the University of Olivet, courthouse hours of operation, and then item 19, a review of and discussion of a legal opinion we received.
All right, very good. Do we have a motion to accept as written?
I'll move it.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Haskell, supported by Commissioner Wright. Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, it's passed. Moving forward. Approval of the minutes. Move the minutes. Okay, Commissioner Holmes. And who seconded? Oh, Commissioner Barber, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, thank you. That's been moved. Limited public comment. If you'd like to address this committee, you can step to the podium, identify yourself. You have 3 minutes. All right, not seeing a stampede, we'll move forward. Item number 6, Equalization and Property Description Director. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here.
Sure. We're going to talk about the PA 116 program. That's a program for farmers, basically to continue to farm their property, and in that, by doing that for a certain amount of time, they can do like 10 years up to 80 years. Essentially, they get a tax break based on continuing to farm that, not developing the property. So it doesn't actually impact the property tax for the county. It's a state tax break, essentially, based on the percentage of income they do on their farming. And we did have a last-minute correction on the resolution. Just want to let you know, we found out that 060, 033, 200, 09100 was sold recently. We just found that out a couple days ago, so the owner wanted to remove that. So we'll have to correct the resolution. And that's for Shane and Nicole Hickey, well-known farmers in the area. Is there any questions on this resolution?
Okay, how do we go about amending this?
You just have to amend it with what he just said,
Okay,
as amended.
all right, okay.
We'll get you a new resolution.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have a motion to accept?
I move to accept.
Okay, Commissioner Barber. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Commissioner Haskell? All right, thank you. Any discussion on this resolution?
Obviously, the motion includes the struck
As amended.
parcel, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so on the amount of the acres, just to let you know, I didn't mention that, was 10.71, so it'd be the 572.16 minus the 10.71 acres.
Okay,
It was just a small parcel.
all righty. So any more discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, it's passed, thank you. And you have one more, Tim?
Yeah, we do a appraisal contract with a local contractor every year. We're very happy with the work that's been done for the field work that he does. He works with another individual in the area, and that worked out quite well. The quality work was excellent. We were below budget this last year. Because of the quality work, we're recommending that we approve another 1-year contract with a slight inflationary increase. The maximum of the contract is $25,840. We're usually below that. and the name of the company is Accurate Assessing. And that had to do with a appraiser that retired a long time ago. We decided that it would be easier to contract that work out. And that's worked out very well, and it's quite cost-effective versus hiring a full-time person with benefits. So I'm recommending that renew the contract.
Support.
And supported, moved by Commissioner Wright, supported by Commissioner Haskell. Any discussion? Seeing none,
Real quick.
Commissioner Haskell.
So you said we were under budget the previous year?
Yeah, we were under budget quite a bit.
What was the amount that we set the contract for last year? Do you remember?
I don't remember the exact number, but it was $65 a parcel. Year we're increasing to $68 a parcel. A lot of it depends on like how many sales we get sometimes too, so it's hard to tell.
Okay.
But we know what the maximum is. We never go over the maximum. I think the number last year that we actually paid out was about 20 grand. So it was quite a bit under the actual maximum of the contract.
All right, thank you. That helps.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion to accept? Oh, already moved? Oh, that's right. My mind's elsewhere. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? All right, it's been passed also. All right, anything else, Tim?
That's it. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, sir. Okay, Technology Services Director. Eric's way back there.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Continuation of last month's discussion regarding remonumentation and public land survey system. I'd asked John Merrick and Ivan Christopher to basically put together a little demonstration and packet of explaining what the public land survey system is, remonumentation, and how it's used within Eaton County. So I want to allocate our time for the technology services report to allow these two to come up and give you a brief demonstration of that. So further ado, John Merrick and Ivan, come on up. Do you want these handed out?
Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Give me one sec here. Am I duplicated or am I extended? You said I should duplicate it? Apologies. The presentation's great, because I can get it in front of you. Well, that's no fun. There would be more setup involved. Yeah.
John, don't make Eric look bad.
Trying. Trying not to, I should say. Did you try turning it off and turning it back on? We're in. All right, let's try this now. We got it. Thank you for your patience. What's that? Okay. We are on the rails. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Board of Commissioners, county administration, colleagues, and citizens of Eaton County. Got some new faces in here. My name is John Merrick. I'm the GIS coordinator for Eaton County. The other part of our team, Ivan Christopher, our GIS administrator here. It's our pleasure to be presenting to you this morning regarding the Public Land Survey System, otherwise known as PLSS, remonumentation, and how it relates to Eaton County GIS. I always like to start at the beginning. You know, prior to settlement in the territory that we now know as Michigan, everything that was west of what we now know as the city of Detroit was considered the Wild Wild West, absolute wilderness. Following the close of the French and Indian War in the late 1700s, there was a land rush that happened in Michigan, and we needed to divide up the land and determine who was going to own what. So in, you know, how do you define who's going to own what? What are going to be the dividing lines? Well, the Public Land Survey System answers that question. So in 1785, the Land Ordinance established the Public Land Survey System to standardize land division. You know, before you can determine, you know, who owns what part of the land and who owns the adjacent part of the land, you have to divide on what, you have to agree on what the dividing lines are. That's where the PLSS comes in. Shown on the screen right now, you know, Michigan's divided up into 83 counties, and within those 83 counties, they're divided up into townships. So specific to Eaton County, we're divided up into 16 townships. Within those 16 townships, we have 36 sections of land. In the 1800s, when the PLSS was first being surveyed, the smallest portion of land that landowners would own was a section of land, which is 1 mile by 1 mile, so 1 square mile. Since then, we've done much more land division. So you break that into quarter sections, quarter sections, half of a quarter of a quarter of a quarter section. And we've even gone further than that. So it's kind of like land division inception. In the corner of each section of land, and in the midpoint of the north, south, east, and west lines, there are physical monuments in the ground. Surveyors agree on them. Tax equalization agrees on them. GIS agrees on them. Everybody agrees that that is the dividing line for land division in the state of Michigan and about half the states in the United States. So right here, this is one of what the old monuments set in the 1800s looks like. It's a stone. It looks a little unique. And the importance of maintaining these physical monuments in the ground, if you're a farmer plowing a field and you hit a stone, In Eaton County, that's pretty normal to hit a stone when you're plowing a field or disking a field. If you didn't know what this was, you'd probably throw it into a pile. So then here we come, 150 years later, now we want to divide up this land, and we have to start from that point. Well, it's not there anymore. So it has to be reestablished. That's where remonumentation comes into play. You know, you think about these things that are buried into the ground, they're not going to move, they're going to be perpetuated forever. We know that that's not accurate. Roads are built, buildings are constructed, the land is moved. This is a really interesting picture here in the upper right-hand corner. We went out to obtain accurate coordinate values on that monument. So this is what the modern surveying monuments look like. A rod drilled into the ground with an aluminum cap stamped Eaton County. Anyone that finds one of these, it's plain as day. It no longer looks like just a stone. This particular one we found in Fox Memorial Park. Don't know if you folks remember a few years ago, we had a big straight line wind event, knocked down a bunch of trees all across the county. Well, this is right on the edge of, I would estimate, about 100-year-old oak, absolutely uprooted. So one more inch closer to the oak, and it would be up here with the root ball, or worse, in a hole that's now 5 feet deep. So the land changes over time, even if humans aren't poking around at it. That's where remonumentation comes into play, because we have to maintain those common points as a start for land division. The image in the lower right-hand corner is kind of like why we need to maintain these. So the large metal post, massive metal post to the right, you know, somebody well-intentioned said, I need to define the edge of my property. So prior to remonumentation, they thought they found the right stone and they set a large monument of their own. Well, that's not agreed upon. That was something that a landowner took into their own hands to say, this is my corner, or this is the line of division. The neighbor on the left side might disagree. And in fact, in this case, they probably should disagree, because you can see about, I'd say about 2 feet away is where the actual monument is. So you think about, you know, if you have just a standard size lot, you know, a third of an acre, a couple of feet off might not really make much of a difference, but when you extrapolate that over 6 square miles of a township, at the end of it, you get pretty far off. And that's a lot of land that's allocated to one side or the other of these dividing lines. So what are we doing as part of this entire initiative? We're going out and we're collecting with our survey grade GPS that was paid for with Homeland Security grant dollars. We're going out and we're obtaining accurate coordinate values, precise coordinate values, so that land division, the establishment of drain route and course, the accuracy of these control corners, it elevates all the way up to what fire station is going to respond to my house if I dial 911. This is literally the underpinnings of the entire geospatial data set for the county. So we want to ensure that it's accurate. We're going out back in 2006. The accuracy of the control value of the control corner coordinates was somewhere within 1 to 6 feet. Could be north, could be south, could be east, could be west. Basically draw a circle around where the point's supposed to be. It could be anywhere within there. With modern equipment, modern methodologies, We now have that down to 2 to 3 centimeters is what we're resting on. We're also working in concert with folks outside of county government. So when we go out and we take a look at these monuments, it might be that they are just not there. It might be that the witnesses who were drilled into ash trees that fell down and then someone chopped into firewood, we're able to communicate that to the road commission, the drain office, the equalization office, and as well as our remonumentation board. So whereas before it was all of these siloed pieces of communication regarding management of these structures, now everybody's on the same page. You know, going forward, well, here you go, why accuracy matters. You know, in this example, parcel boundaries have improved by 20 to 30 feet in some cases. You know, we use this data day in and day out, even if you think you don't. As part of this work, you know, where do we want this to go? You know, what do we see off into the future? We would like to see a change in our remonumentation plan, such that the coordinate values are standardized for precision and accuracy going forward. That would do a lot to help us supplement the data that we're already collecting, so we can be freed up to take care of the other responsibilities that we have. You know, those coordinate values are recorded on what's called an LCRC, or a land coordinate recordation certificate, and those are filed with the state. If I go back, down in the lower left-hand corner, that's an example of the coordinate values that we get. From surveyor to surveyor working on remonumentation, the coordinate values might be completely different as far as the accuracy and the precision. This is a lot of work, and it's a lot of things to maintain. What's going to be remonumented, what needs to be remonumented, you know, what control corners have we assessed accuracy on? We've gone and visited with our survey grade unit. And then which ones do we still have to do? All of that, we've built a mapping application. It's available to the public. One, it helps us stay organized in our work. And then two, we like de-siloed data so that everyone can see the same thing that we are doing. And then Ivan here is going to take you on a tour of that. Is there any questions while I'm setting this up? There'll be more time for questions afterwards.
Commissioner Wright.
So, I've been around since 2005, so I've heard a lot about our contracts for remonumentation. And so you've just confused me as far as saying we need to get more consistency so that we have correct locations and things. So I thought that's what we were doing all this time.
So on one side of it, you have accuracy and precision. That information is being held by our surveyors. The way that data is communicated from the surveyors to the county is through those LCRCs. When they go out and remonument, they file that with the county. That's the data that we pull, and while it's good and helpful, it's not accurate to our standards. Does that make sense?
And we're giving them contracts that isn't up to our accuracy standards.
They are performing with what is dictated in our current remonumentation plan. So what I'm proposing is we take another look at that, especially as we are finishing up the first phase of remonumentation. So every single monument has been visited in the county. Going forward, because there's still going to be, road commission trucks driving down dirt roads and accidentally knocking out control corners, you need to have eyes on that going forward. It's a constant maintenance project.
Just checking out the landscape like you do at your house. Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Moudry.
John?
Yes, sir.
The picture showing the stake with the pink tape on it, is that your pink tape?
Nope. So sometimes surveyors or landowners will drive something into the ground, wrap pink tape around it so that they know that thing is close to what the actual corner is.
Okay, the reason I bring this up is because my next door neighbor
Uh-huh.
called me over and he says, Mark, what's the deal at my tree out front? And I went out there and there was a 3-foot stake
Yeah.
with this pink tape on it,
Uh-huh.
pink tape around his tree, and a very unusual screw
Okay.
put into the trunk of the tree.
Okay.
And, oh,
You'll have to give us your location because I suspect that close to your tree, there is a surveying monument. And
Okay.
that screw that they put into the tree
yeah,
is probably a witness nail that points to where that survey monument is.
okay, okay.
Yeah, if you'd like to, for us, we can, right now, we can actually look at that specific spot, if you like.
Well,
Or
we can meet after.
We can
the
look at
meeting.
after,
Yeah.
too. Okay, yeah, well, I'm glad to be able to show you the new application we've made for showing everyone both the work involved in the remonumentation program itself, and then also the work that we've done on top of that to gather precise locations for all these monuments. So you can see some high-level metrics here about the remon program and then the work that we do. The green dots are corners that have been remonumented, but we haven't visited. These blue ones are ones that have been remonumented and we have visited. And then these orange ones are planned for remonumentation in 2025. The purple ones have not been remonumented, so maybe next year those will get done. So just to show you an example, this is a corner that's been remonumented, so we'll show you some information about what exactly happened there. We can show you the LCRC or multiple LCRCs associated with that corner. And then if you click through, this is one we visited, so we tell you a little bit about how accurate the location is that we collected, as well as an image of that corner, so that if you have, if someone happens to go out there, they'll know exactly what they're looking for. And then these coordinates, these are the kind of coordinates that we work with. They're quite accurate. Yeah, so in this case, if we have permission,
Okay.
maybe we don't.
Oh, really?
Okay,
That would do it.
yeah. Yeah, on your computer, I think you'd be fine. But yeah, we can show you an image of ones that we visited and have a picture of. So yeah, just a good way to kind of visualize what's been done and what's left to do. So as you can see, if we were to have to continue on the course that we've been on, we do have almost half of these corners. So any way we can make that more efficient would certainly have a big impact.
Commissioner Wright?
So, if you look in Delta Township, can you refresh my memory of what you just said about up there? Because it has the little green dots.
Oh, so the green ones have been remonumented, but we haven't visited them. Delta is a little bit different in this case because some years ago, the township paid for a contractor to do similar work to what we do, visiting all those corners and getting those precise locations. So because that was done by them, we're not worrying about going out there ourselves and doing it again. So we don't have any plans in any case to do all those in Delta.
Any other questions? Commissioner Mott?
Do you have a time frame when you'd like to accomplish or finish this? I mean, I know it's a big undertaking, but.
So the summer previous to COVID, that was the summer where we hit it hard. Within that acquisition season, we got 900 of them squared away. Since then, there's been many logistical challenges. And really, that leads into, we gotta try something new. We gotta try something new so that we can keep these rolling in.
Any other questions? Commissioner Holmes?
I have a question. When a landowner is aware of a location like this, an adjacent landowner comes in with a bulldozer clearing the fence row and stuff and takes that away, who would they, original, or the other landowner come to complain or get some action, and who reestablishes that? And is it the cost of the one who was oblivious of trying to keep track of that, knowing he was close and just took it away?
Yes, sir. So you're saying a surveying monument got obliterated?
Right.
Activity? That is within Michigan state law. That is a big no-no.
It's a little more than I'd pay for a survey, but
Yeah,
who knows how involved it was, but they're a little bit upset that that's gone now.
understandably so.
Well, thank you.
Any other questions? I have one,
Yes, sir.
John and Ivan. Given that this is this accurate now, and I know it hasn't been, but it makes me wonder, because we've had reports in here in the last few years that we've had houses built on county drains. How does that happen?
A number of ways. So, specific to that example, all county drains, their route and course description, the written description of where the drain goes, that all starts from these control corners. And specific to drains, you can imagine a squiggly line, and then you're starting at 6 feet off to the right. What's that gonna do when you get to the end? It gets exacerbated the further you go away from that origin point. So it's not exactly the most glitzy, jazz handsy project, but the importance of it cannot be understated.
So hopefully in the future, that won't happen.
Yes. Yes.
All right, thank you, John. We won't hold you to that. Any other questions? All right, do you have anything else for us?
No, sir. Thanks for your time and attention. If you have any questions for us, please reach out.
All right, thank you very much. All right. Item number 8, Communications Director.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
This up. Sorry, I'm playing the role of IT junior today as well. Trying to do Eric proud and Liz proud. I'm going to jump around a little bit here in the third page of my report. So a little over a week ago, I was able to install Microsoft Clarity code into our website. So we can now monitor a lot more specific metrics from users that are using our site. Specifically, what we've been talking about when we had the Information Technology Committee was we have a problem with accessibility on our website. We have a problem with folks getting lost, sitting in the search page, trying to find what they're looking for. So what Microsoft Clarity will allow us to do, and it is free, and the moment it's not free, we will not have it anymore, but it is free today, and so those insights are gonna help us actually see where folks are getting angry when they're scrolling too far. It actually does screen recordings anonymously. We're not gonna know who the users are, but we can see where they're rage clicking, we can see where they're scrolling or going back very quickly, to get an understanding of where they're getting confused, where they're getting lost, or where we need to do better. There's stuff like user intent. We can know if like they're sitting on a page for 20 minutes to 30 minutes and they're reading everything and they're going back and forth. Low intent would be if they're just looking at a site, they get angry, they close it. We don't know. And then there is recordings of people rage clicking, it's called. That's a metric you'll see in the report. And I'm sorry that a lot of these modules are very small. That's like the generic export that Clarity does. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to do some screen capture to make it larger next time. But for instance, in the last 3 days, we actually looked this morning, there was 20 instances of people rage clicking on our website. That's where they're looking for something or trying to click a link that doesn't work. They can't find it, and so they're rapidly clicking around somewhere. And you can kind of feel the rage when you watch some of those videos. There are different JavaScript failures, dead links, old information where it once went to an external site and now you click it and that site doesn't exist anymore. You know, some old pages on our site still have that. Now we can actually find who's accessing that and how frequently so we can fix it and change it and be a little more deliberate about that. From the little limited data we have over the last few days, there have been some things I've identified and I'm working to fix quick things that we can fix right now. And there's also some things where I'm gonna have to work with departments as we get more data to figure out how we can be more deliberate and changing the different elements of their page, especially if that's how they've been portraying information or that's how they want folks to access it, but now we're learning that maybe that's not working anymore. And so we need to change that, and we might need to restructure how that information is laid out on their department pages. Because right now, departments do control and edit their own pages with the help of Liz or I. But now I think as we gain more data, we'll be able to more clearly see different accessibility levels happening, and you'll see a lot of this fluctuate. And if any of you want to see sort of a live reading of some of this, because you can see live users on the site at any given time, we do average roughly around, depending, 30,000 users a month or so, depending. Sometimes you can double that sometimes, and that's, users doesn't necessarily mean that's an individual. That individual could go back several times that month, but that's the amount of traffic that our website sees, which is a lot. And we don't have the resources to invest in a lot of that. Accessibility changes, AI for search engine optimization, those are expensive things, and we don't have the ability to do that right now. So hopefully Microsoft Clarity will help us determine a lot of that. Any questions on Microsoft Clarity and sort of, again, this is just a very small snapshot over a little over a week of data. It's going to continue to record that live data, and so we'll have a lot to look at in the future.
Any questions? All right, Commissioner Haskell.
I guess, first of all, I find this absolutely fascinating. I had no idea that a tool like this existed. When we talk about instances of rage clicking, will it be clear if it's I guess, performance of the website and how slow it's moving, or is it like, is it obvious what the problem is?
Yeah, so and there's gonna be nuance to that, and none of this is gonna be, just like Google Analytics, none of this is gonna be a perfect clue into how people are interacting with something. But for instance, we had a page on our site that, where you could take payments, and that payment link wasn't necessarily working, or they couldn't find the right one, and so you'll see them click, 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 and then like a bunch of incessant clicking in one or two spots, and then they close the page. So that's rage clicking. Now, there's gonna be instances where a link doesn't work or it doesn't load properly on their browser, and so they're gonna go back in and do it again, and then it works that time. And so that might log that as an instance of rage clicking. And I did not coin that term, that is the actual term that they're using.
I believe it.
So there's some nuance there, but it is fairly obvious when you look at some of these recordings that is what it is.
That's awesome. I love it.
Any other questions? Commissioner Holmes.
Is there a spot there where that will ask a question, what are you looking for, or how can we help? Haven't I seen that?
The search bar says, how can we help? And it is it's a little more robust since we kind of refreshed the site last year with our contract with Civic Plus. But it doesn't, so when I talked about AI, which I know that's a scary thing to say necessarily, but it will actually help find trigger words in their search items versus right now, if you type in you're looking for the communications department, it will populate that page only. In any other instance, the word communications exists on our site, which is like 1,000 different pages. And so there's ways we could try to optimize that, and I'm hoping that looking at this data, what people are searching for, and when they are getting lost on that search engine page, at what point do they surrender and give up, basically. But right now, there is a search thing that says, how can we help you? Search for anything you're looking for, but it's not perfect.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Oh, Commissioner Wright.
Did you say you just started taking the data and running it like this last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think it's been about 8 or 9 days since I got the code to actually work on our site. You have to embed the code. I had to work with Civic Plus to make sure it was reading accurately and hitting every page. So, yeah, so it's not, it's just still, it's a new thing. So it is live taking data daily, but we don't have like a full snapshot of a month or a quarter or anything like that. It also is linked to our Google Analytics account. So there's, some cross-play between data. But I'll say because this isn't have as much data as Google Analytics does, but some of the data you're seeing here is from Google Analytics too. It's kind of interplaying together, but there's some disparities as well, and that's why some of these modules I had to remove because it's not taking the full picture like Google can, because Google's been there longer, and so there's a disparity there. But yeah, so this is only a little over a week, basically, of data. And even this, I think, elements of this, because I said it's interplaying with Google, so the data is kind of playing around with each other a little bit. Some of these are only 3-day snapshots, So this is just more, I wanted you to see what it can do. It can do more than you're seeing, but this is kind of just a brief picture of what we'll be able to look at.
I think it's going to be interesting after we get a couple months of this running so that we can look back at what people are clicking on. I'm going to try to think that it would be some of our online payments, but also about our millage, because we have that right there as an icon as soon as you open the homepage.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think in like a 4 or 5 day period there, I think, if I remember correctly, and that's not reflected here, that specific page had, I think, about 1,500 instances of folks going in there, and you can actually, some of that is recording of people clicking open the FAQs, clicking into the question submission thing. We get a lot of questions from residents and phone calls from that page, basically, so they can submit questions directly to me. And so you can actually see them. Luckily, we haven't had any instances of rage clicking that I've seen from that page, but I think that also the rage clicking comes from more if the page functionality isn't working.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Excuse me, I have one, Logan. Hypothetically, if someone would like to view the financial records of our county, say the last 20 years worth of audits, how would they find that?
Yeah, so on our home page, near where the public safety millage, the big yellow button, we now have a button there that says financial statements, so you click into that and you can find links to all of that information from the audit to the budget, all right there.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions? All right, do you have anything else for us?
Yeah, real quick here. I'm not going to dive into I listed here in my account or my report some of the major press things, just basically anything that took up staff time if they called me or had questions. So I won't go into that, but on that first page, I have some social media analytics. This isn't something I want to spend a lot of time on, but just so you guys get an understanding, it all looks very nice. We've had huge upticks in reach, which is reach and views on that bottom graph is what I look at most of the time. It's a fickle thing, social media. It's going to fluctuate. We average usually 9,000 to 15,000 folks interacting or viewing our content, and so I like to try and plateau there as much as we can and not go much lower than that. But we'll have huge spikes like this. We're sharing a lot of information about the public safety millage and other things. That gets a lot of shares. That gets a lot of interactions, for better or for worse. So you're going to see huge spikes, and that's why it's kind of a fickle thing. It just really depends. We did a survey for Crandall Park a few months ago that we had an insane amount of reach and views that really didn't showcase really what we're averaging. So it's kind of a strange dance. So really for me, it's just we got to communicate accurate information, and we're going to continue to sort of monitor views and reach as much as we can. I'll keep this in my report. If you have any questions about social media in general, I can answer for you there too. But one thing I did want to talk about a little bit is, so we're listing all these metrics, and, it depends on if it's a press-heavy month, or it depends on if we have controversial content that's happening. But I know public safety millage, tax increase, just like when we had the separate tax limitation, you're going to see a lot of, inflammatory comments or debates happening between residents and others, and that's normal and that's okay. But as a government entity, you know, we want to be careful on when we're using these platforms. We're there to inform stakeholders, right? We don't have the manpower, the capacity to combat all defamatory comments or misinformation. We do the best that we can, but we're not going to enter in a heated debate as the county's entity on social media. You know, social media is a very small part of my role. It's a very, you know, but it is a big platform for how we share information with residents. So as a county, you know, in general, not just social media, we've only really started talking to residents and sharing information in a substantial way very recently, right? And so that's part of the problem. We have to build trust with these residents. You know, you'll see folks that maybe don't fully understand something that was posted, or they have an opinion, which is well within their rights. They should share that. But if it's misinformation, the county will, you know, hey, that's actually not true. Here's maybe a link, you know, to the accurate information. They don't necessarily believe us when we say that, and that is what it is. We have to build that trust with all of our stakeholders. And so I will say several of our commissioners here and elected officials do a really good job dispelling misinformation, sharing accurate information, and being very professional about it. And I encourage you all to continue doing that. You're doing a great job. But know that, you know, again, we haven't been communicating that frequently with residents. You know, I've been here, I think, about a year and a half. We have a lot of work to do to build trust. We have a lot of work to do to maintain building that trust. And so that distrust with our government, really, you as an elected official, some of that is going to cling to you as an elected official when you're interacting online. Know that, acknowledge that, you represent the county, and that is good. That's good for the county, that's good for residents. But just keep that in mind, that, you know, you're not here to arm wrestle anybody, but you're here to share accurate information as much as you can. And on that note, on the last bit here, and I've talked to Commissioner DeRocha and Chair Ahmad about this, I'm going to be requesting of Chair Ahmad to consider forming a communications work group. And that isn't necessarily to talk about social media or anything like that. There'll be elements of that in there. But really, you know, my department of one, the goal is to, you know, let's set goals. And, you know, I have a communications plan and set goals that I have as a waypoint. But, you know, my capacity isn't great, and especially in the controller's office capacity is not great. Ben does a wonderful job helping me. He has access to the social media when he can, but his capacity is worse than mine, frankly. So it's a tricky thing. It's a dance, you know, and that's why we rely on elected officials to do what they can to dispel that information. But I'd like to request that we form a communications work group to monitor goals, set those targets, and not just about building trust with internal and external stakeholders like residents. It's also with other government bodies. It's also where we can try and allocate or lobby for resources from the state and the federal government. You know, in all these conversations about bank intercounty drain, when we went to go ask for money, when we're talking about changing the separate tax limitation process for us and other governments, every time they're always like, "Where's the county been? Where's Eaton County been?" They haven't heard from us. And that has to change. And so I think we got to keep up that momentum. So I think after the public safety millage, which does take up a lot of my time, I do spend most of my time responding to residents, responding to other officials that are asking questions or calling. Once that is done, I'd like in earnest to begin a communications work group. Maybe that meets quarterly. We can talk about what that is, to set goals, monitor the work that we're doing, identify targets for resources, that kind of thing that we can kind of aim my department at as much as we can. Because we really can't stop trying to build that trust no matter what happens. And I know that regardless of what happens with this millage, you know, big changes are coming at the county. And so I want to set up an apparatus that, you know, can continue this work no matter what.
Logan?
Right.
I'm looking at your page that you have presented here, and so I'm getting LinkedIn posts from the county. So I go into my LinkedIn and I read what you put there. And then also our Delta Township Talk of the Town, that now has the county in there. So when you're talking about intergovernmental workings together, does that reflect in any of these up and down charts?
So no, so this is just Meta. So on this first page, that's Meta. So that's Facebook and Instagram.
That's it.
That's it for this. Yeah, LinkedIn, we have a little over 200 some followers. Mostly it's internal staff or commissioners or other officials and other bodies that are following us. So what's shared there is generally press releases or major announcements. Whereas with Facebook, where we get the most interaction, the most reach, we're reaching the most residents. We can throw things into different groups from different areas of the county. That's where you're seeing most of our interaction anyway, at least with social media. So that's kind of what's reflected here. I'm not reporting out on LinkedIn. It's very sparsely used. It's more of an internal tool, frankly. And then I do work with Mary Warland in Delta, who's fantastic. She does the newsletter, and she and I coordinate a lot on sharing information, sharing different ways that we can up our newsletter subscriptions, which have steadily been ticking up every month. But there's also more we need to do, especially when it comes to internal communication. So with our staff, I would also say, I'll use your question as a sort of jumping off point for this. We have to do better. My office has to do better. Again, it's a capacity issue, but there's a whole lot of fast information coming, especially now with the budget cycle in this very fraught year. And our staff are stressed. They don't know what's coming necessarily. They're worried, and they ask the controller's office all the time about that. We are all getting a lot of questions about it. And so, working with Connie, we're working on building different platforms, not just the internal newsletter, which is what it is, but also how frequently can we send out updates? How frequently can we do commissioner updates to staff and the public that comes directly from this body that isn't necessarily talking about the general newsletter that we do? Now, again, I'm adding different touch points hypothetically that we can do, but I am only one person in this department, so that gets tricky. But that's what that work group, I think, can help us do, is identify, okay, what is our priority and why, and what is that content going to look like? I feel like I didn't answer your question. I kind of got on a soapbox for a second there.
Well, I was just wondering, yes.
Yes.
That's okay. I understand what you just explained to me, that I had a question of. And, but before we leave this, Commissioner Mudray and I both are on a platform called Nextdoor. Have you ever heard of it?
Yes.
Okay, so it's pretty active, and we do share information that would be helpful to people who are asking questions. And on Nextdoor, you can restrict it to the neighborhoods that you want it to go to. Mark and I pretty much go all the way to Williamston, so we're just happy to share anything we know. But that will help people, like free tax services. There's food banks, and you can call for a list, of where they're going to drop food off. Just things like that we're aware of because of boards and stuff that we're on. So just letting you know that it's pretty active, and I didn't say you have to go all the way to Williamston, but I just meant it in your future life.
Yeah, that's on the list of evaluating what other platforms we can tackle. There's some that we just aren't doing, and so that Nextdoor is one of those.
Okay.
And also with this work group that hopefully kicks off is I want to provide you as commissioners and staff to not just about any given millage or something like that, but general information to share on any platforms you're on, just to get the word out of what kind of work the county is doing, what's the impact the county's having on residents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, Logan.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving along. Item number 9, Human Resources Director, Ben.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So I will try to be as brief as I can. We do have our attorney, Thomas, here, who will be assisting us in the closed session. So be mindful of his time, and he's on the clock. So. All right, so we filled 6 positions this month. We have 10 positions posted. 6 of those are ongoing recs at the sheriff's office and youth facility. We have 4 positions within the administrative wing, and we're recommending 3 of those be authorized by the Ways and Means Committee. All of them rest within the public defender's office. Quick highlights: trial courts represent a large portion of our workforce, so that's probate, district, circuit court, juvenile court, specialty courts, plus operations of the youth facility. So just keeping in mind that segment is highly complex, interconnected ecosystems of roles that the court has to do a lot to manage and maintain staffing and fulfilling their duties. Prosecutors update: we're still having significant retention recruitment problems with the prosecutor's office. I think as we discuss public safety, it's important to always remember that encompasses the full life cycle of a crime, so not just the jailing and arresting, but includes the prosecutor's office as they evaluate a case and ensure defendants are treated fairly and victims get their day in court. We've had a number of resignations to go to other places of employment where they make more money and work less. We had 2 resignations this month, 1 attorney and 1 legal assistant. Attorney went to Livingston County, which I believe is the 3rd one we've lost to that county, and legal assistant went to work for the state. Prosecutor Lloyd did request we take down the positions for the postings of his office. You know, as he stated in the past, it's difficult for him to staff his office when he doesn't know what the future funding will look like for his office. And I know that sentiment is carried by a lot of elected officials and offices within the county, which is why we have so many vacant positions. Tough time to try to bring somebody in to the fold. Sheriff Department update corrections. There are 2 vacancies currently open. The jail EMT posting is still vacant, so always struggling to find people with that qualification. Road Patrol, we have one deputy that's going to be leaving this month, so that will leave 6 vacancies. Current number of deputies and FTO, which is field training, which will be the process until around May of this year, is 10. So really from a staffing standpoint, because when they're an FTO, they have to patrol with another officer who's already MCOL certified. They're 16 spots down from their ability to provide coverage. We did get some questions about why we had to eliminate a shift. We have 10 people that are now getting full rate and bore of the deputy pay rate. So we can no longer backfill with overtime using those people's salaries because of vacant positions, because we now have 10, which is fantastic. That leaves us in striking distance in May to be the best staff we've been in years. However, budgetarily speaking, that really cuts the amount of position savings the sheriff has to work with. So we made that clarification to a number of people who've asked in the last 30 to 40 days. You know, this is not just a retention recruitment issue that we've had to deal with over the years with the Sheriff's Department. It's not just us, it's national and it's communities all across Michigan. We currently have 2 candidates that are in the academy at LCC as we speak, but remembering it takes about a year from the time we hire somebody to when they go through the academy, go through field training, and become MCOL certified. So we have 6 positions now. We only have 2 in the pipeline, so realistically, we have to plan filling vacancies way in advance unless we're getting somebody from another department, which primarily we've been using Academy as our main success in recruitment. So Sheriff's Department's done a great job, Sheriff. It's been a lot of work for you guys, so Captain Coleman and everyone really pushing hard there. So I would ask authorization for the 3 positions in the PD's office, and that's my positions update.
Any questions? All right. So do you need an action on that?
Yep. Authorize the 3 positions in the PD's office, please.
Motion?
Move it.
Okay. Okay, moved by Commissioner Haskell, supported by Commissioner Wright. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? All right, that's supported and passed.
Excellent. So next, I'll be brief with the reclassification process. So every year, this is built into the personnel policy. Employees or managers can submit for consideration in the budget process reclassifying employees. We're asking that this be placed on hold for the current year unless it's in alignment with a process for consolidating or making changes within the department for cost-saving purposes. So that is not unfamiliar from what we've done in the past when we've entered difficult financial straits. For departments that have people that maybe are working above their classification, we'd ask them to just tell their people to stop doing that work and reorient it to the position that should be doing it. But if they are approaching us with, we think we can get synergy by combining these positions and save money, then we would want those to come to the board. Job questionnaire analysis sheets are usually what people fill out. We have not received any completed ones, so at this time, we're giving everybody a heads up just not to expect that as part of this year's budget process. So that would require a motion from the board. So we would request Ways and Means, make a motion authorizing the freeze of the reclassification process unless as part of a cost-saving measure or a change in a departmental budget.
I make that motion.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Barber. Do we have a support? I'll support it then. All right, moved and supported. Do we have any more discussion? All right, seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? All right, that's been passed. Thank you.
And I've got one sneaky item. No, I have one item that I have to bring up. So non-union sick leave policy, as many of you know, we've talked about and probably read about, the Earned Sick Time Act is scheduled to take effect on Friday, February 21st. So we have been working with legal counsel to amend the non-union personnel rules to bring them into compliance with the new law. In a lot of ways, we were already at that standard, but there are some changes that are significant that we're having to amend our policy to address. So part of the proposed changes we're putting together will include moving the date of eligibility for short-term disability to 180 days. Instead of right now, it's 30. That's how it is in all of our non-union contracts. So for some reason, the personnel rules just never updated when we bargained up to 180. And then requiring employees to supplement their leave when they're out on short-term. This just means their vacation and sick leave have to be used to fill the gap from the 66% wage that our short-term currently covers, which again is in alignment with how all of our union groups are. And then we would propose reducing the 10 days currently allowed for leave without pay up to the discretion of the department head or elected official down to 5. Part of that is the Sick Leave Act puts a lot of emphasis at the front end in terms of employees being able to take time. So that's why we're looking on the back end, the leave without pay to reduce from 10 to 5. Still gives discretion to offices. So at this time, the law doesn't impact union groups because they have current contractual agreements. When those expire for us, which would be 2027, we'll have to bargain the changes of the law, but we're still in compliance with those groups. But for non-union, we have to have our policy in place by next Friday. So the goal is to bring you the entirety of that policy of the full board. I will tell you there are 2 bills, 1 House, 1 Senate, and the Senate bill was being debated as of yesterday. And I haven't seen any updates this morning, but they were trying to implement some changes because this one untailored fit all kind of a bill has been difficult for private entities as well as public entities. So they're trying to fine tune it. I believe yesterday the governor asked the legislature to delay its implementation until June while they work out the finer details. But for our purposes, we've got to have a policy ready to go by Friday. Let me see my notes. So the action, we would just request that you make a motion of support of us getting a comprehensive sick leave policy to you all by next board meeting on Wednesday so that you can vote on it so we can have it in place. And we've scheduled 5 one-hour sessions to meet with directors, department heads, deputies, anyone who's managing at the county so they can ask their questions about how does this need to affect how they manage their staff's use of sick time. All that in a week.
Commissioner Haskell.
Can you revisit the point about, so you want to take 10 unpaid days, bump it down to 5, and that's because there's going to be more accrual time of actual paid time off because of the law?
No, well, for some of our groups, so for instance, a lot of laws that are standardized like this will exempt like election workers. This law doesn't, right? So now Diana, when she does her elections, is gonna have to be like, oh, for every 30 hours worked, they are going to accrue an hour of sick leave. So that in that instance, this is a group where they're going to have increased benefit, but they're really, for the most part, they work 2 to 3, elections a year or a cycle. But that's on us to manage. For everybody else, we still have the same 3.08 accrual that was approved by this board, I think back in, I want to say August or October of last year. So it's really that there's less control on the front end. So typically when somebody takes time off, the manager can say, hey, where are you at? What's going on? Do you need anything? The law makes it to where they essentially don't have to get a reason why they're sick out to us for the first 3 days. So it radically changes how we're going to be able to staff and following up if people are just for some reason not calling or if they're out for sickness. If it's a foreseeable thing, they're supposed to give 7 days' notice. If it's unforeseeable, they don't have to give notice, and we can't reach out till the 4th day. So it's just changed the paradigm where there's less ability for us to be flexible on the front end, which is why we're looking to reduce that time on the back end.
Any other questions? Commissioner Wright?
How many of part-time people, because that's been a real, over the last year, difficult situation with some places having several part-time people to manage with this new law. So how many basically part-time people? Because that's not gonna also be like when we hire summer temporary help, is it too?
It will. So, no, it's a good point. So the areas we're really focused on making sure that we're in compliance right off the bat is we've got all of our on-call staff at the youth facility. We've got our seasonal staff with parks and our election workers. Those will be the harder ones to manage and maintain just because there are parameters, including when they leave and when they return, because if they leave and come back within 6 months, we have to give them their bank that they had when they left. So there's a lot of technical pieces we're having to structurally build, which is unfortunate. First, you have to build the legal framework, and then Melissa has to help us build the framework into our system in the accounting standpoint, and we haven't even we've had discussions, but we haven't started building that. Be great if they gave us till June, but if not, we're moving.
To answer your question about the number, right now between on-call, temporary, and part-time, we have 86 employees that are in that category.
And then probably another 20 when we go full seasonal,
Yeah, the seasonal are not employed yet, but.
I did a webinar here a few weeks back with Lansing Chamber of Commerce trying to teach us how to stay on top of a lot of it was the part-time and counting the hours stuff. So that's why I was wondering.
Mm-hmm, yep.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it sounds hard. Sorry, Melissa.
So you don't have anything written for us?
I don't. I have draft pieces and kind of a cohesive plan, but not ready to bring as an action item. And especially if it does get amended by the legislature before Wednesday.
So we need to wait on that?
That's our hope, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. You will need a consensus from us?
To take it to the board.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Haskell.
So, yeah, I guess that was going to be my clarifying question as well. It's just, this is just to authorize you guys to come up with a plan, essentially.
Correct, yeah.
To finalize the plan.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it has to happen, right? I don't like the idea of employees losing benefits in the ways of time off. So if we are reducing from 10 to 5 days, I understand that flexibility is there, but is there, I guess, as we go forward, if there's any way to think creatively?
So can I
within
just
the law.
point, the 5 days that we're talking about is related to leave without pay. So we have FMLA, we have disability, and then we have sick leave, we have annual leave. Some employees accumulate comp time. So what that 5 days, going from the 10 to the 5 days, the department has had the ability to approve up to 10 days leave without pay. Here's the issue that we want to change. We want the department to have to come to you, Ways and Means Committee, to say, we'll allow you to go beyond that point. And I'll give you a really important part of leave without pay. If you keep an employee on leave without pay for an extended period of time, you could be saying to the public and to this board that you don't need that position. So you need to make sure that departments are accountable to the fact that they're not having their employees work. Again, our leave time it's a lucrative benefit. It really is. We're not stingy with that benefit because we know that our employees have issues. But to not have the board aware of a situation in which somebody wants to approve an additional 3 months off, or even if it is, 15 days, you should know that. And the department should speak to why it's important for that employee and how they're able to manage their office. That's the reason the plan's in there. that makes sense.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, what does this board like to do? What's your consensus?
Make a motion to authorize the administration to finalize leave and sick time and all the other policies that we implement at the county.
All right, moved and support. You want to say that again? No, I'm kidding.
I was thinking as I was saying.
All right, moved and supported. Do we have any more discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, there you have it.
That concludes my update. Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving along. Item number 10, Finance Director. Melissa, good morning.
Good morning. I was just going to ask you, do we want to take a short break before we go into my reports? Because my reports will be a little lengthy.
Sounds like you would like to. So yes, let's take a 10-minute break. And we'll be back here at 22:25 after 10. Thank you. we'll resume our meeting. And Melissa, you're up.
All right, so I will start with my financial projections. I will say this is not our final for fiscal year 23-24. This is estimated. We still have a few more residual journal entries, and obviously our audit fieldwork is not quite complete, but it is wrapping up. Thank goodness. So I'd like to start on this. And just briefly, you can see our expenditures were under where we expected them to be. Our revenues were over, so that is a good thing. Our revenues were approximately $150,000 higher than we expected. A substantial portion of that is actually from interest revenues. So we did do a couple of budget amendments to account for that. However, they continued to be higher than expected. Also have, so we did have expenses that were approximately $3.1 million less than what we had budgeted. We expected approximately $900,000 that it would be under, but because of position savings and because of projects that did not get done this fiscal year or did not get, they were budgeted for but did not get started, that was where a lot of our savings were. So that does mean that we are putting money back into our fund balance. However, we did adopt the 24-25 budget contemplating using our fund balance, which is why you'll see down at the very bottom of this page that our restricted ending or unrestricted ending fund balance is only the 5.4 million rather than the 9 million that it would be without that use of fund balance. So then going on to the next couple of pages, I just tried to break down all of the expenses that we've had by each of the individual categories and functions of government. Please keep in mind that public safety is not just our sheriff's department, it is also planning and zoning, our community development. When we talk for the millage, it also includes our prosecuting attorney. However, for budgetary and auditing purposes, that is included in general government. So we did have obviously quite a bit. The bulk of our expenditures are in personnel, so between wages and fringes. So then the next, can you go one more page, please? Thank you. The next page, this is strictly the difference between this year and last fiscal year. So you'll see public safety had a substantial decrease in their capital outlay. Last fiscal year, we had our Axon body cameras. We made an initial implementation. We only have to pay $220,000 per year on that, but it is a 5-year contract that we entered into. So we had to record that all of 22-23. So that makes a large difference. So moving on. So these are each of the expenses broken down by each of the departments. So trying to show you exactly what goes into each of those functions of government. Judicial, there was savings for personnel. On the next page, there was, you'll see a substantial savings in our building and grounds department. That is because Chad did not start all of the projects that he had budgeted for. And then the prosecuting attorney's office also saved a substantial amount of money, and that is because he did not fill positions. So that covers this fiscal year for this portion here. Let me see. If anybody has any questions about any of these reports, I'm happy to dive further in. I have data coming out my ears, I think. So then, if we go into the 5-year comparisons, probably 2 or 3 more pages, Logan. A little. Yes, sorry, the charts, thank you. So I tried to give some charts to give you some pictures that compare these years. Just as we go through this, this is our revenue 5-year comparison. As you can see, taxes went up over the last 5 years. Taxes have gone up $5 million. That represents a almost 25% increase over the last 5 years. However, obviously, our revenue and our expenses are both increasing incrementally because of inflation. The other increase that has been substantial over the last years has been interest. From 2020 through 24, we had a 453% increase in interest and rent revenue. So that has majorly impacted our budgets. So then on, yes, ma'am.
Looking at the federal one, looking at the federal graph there, what did we not get for it to go down for federal revenue?
So federal revenues the last couple of years have been American Rescue Plan Act funds. That's been the substantial portion of that. And there's been a couple of years that was accounted for differently based on our audit. But we have continued, obviously, this next fiscal year, we will not receive any federal revenue for that. So that'll be a decrease over the next several years.
So it had to do with that?
Yes, it did.
Thank you.
I have a question, Melissa.
Yes, sir.
These charges for services, what does that encompass?
So charges for services, that encompasses court ticket revenue, it encompasses sheriff's department revenue, it's the small revenue sources if somebody comes into Clerk Botsworth's office and needs copies of things. That's what those charges for services are.
And that's been relatively stable over the past 5 years.
Yes, it has. So then if we go into the expenses, the big 3 expenses that have changed are our judicial, our general government, and our public safety. Judicial has changed almost $1 million over the last 5 years, accounting for about a 19% increase. General government has increased about $2.7 million, which is an increase of 31%. And then public safety has increased $5.4 million for almost 40% increase over the last 5 years.
Any questions so far?
So there's a lot more charts trying to give you full pictures of what has happened at the county, make it easily digestible. So a lot of this is probably redundant materials, just different pictures showing things different ways. But if anybody has any questions about any of this information, I'm happy to sit down and dive right into the data. So,
I do have a question.
yes, sir.
How do we figure grants, and I'm specifically the youth facility? Where does that fall into these charts?
So the grants actually, that specific grant is in a different fund. So the only impact to the general fund is the amount that we transfer from the general fund to the youth facility child care fund to sustain their operations. So that is a transfer out only. So.
Thank you.
So that concludes my 23-24 report. Again, I will say this is not final, but it is close. So then my next report is a nice short little one-pager, and that is for the first quarter of fiscal year 24-25. The information that is in here, it is from October 1st through December 31st. And the prior year information is also for the same time period. So we're comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges here. So relatively stable year over year. I honestly don't have a whole bunch to report on this specifically, but I included it just in case anybody wanted to know where we were at so far.
Any questions?
So that concludes my financial reports, and I'm going to move on to our health insurance report. This report covers the whole calendar year of 2024, and as of right now, we are sitting at a negative fund balance of $116,000 for the calendar year. The one caveat to that is we do not have the final quarterly settlement for that period, which floats between $150,000 to $200,000 every quarter. So we do anticipate that that will be made whole within the next few months. So
Hopefully we can zero that.
I hope that we at least hit zero. So that actually concludes my reports then.
Any questions for Melissa?
Just thank you for the nice graphs.
Yes, indeed. All right, thank you, Melissa. Moving on to public improvement. And Chad's making his way up.
Good morning. I'll be kind of brief today. It's not a whole lot to report on from our end. I think in your packet, the public improvement, most of those projects are exterior projects, and we're in the time of year that not a lot of exterior projects are going on. We are in the middle of this time of year, what we are working on is our annual reports. We are required to maintain third-party inspections for our sprinkler systems, fire alarm and smoke detection systems, and also our elevators. So sprinklers were last week. Next week we have our fire alarm smoke detections, and then the following is our elevator inspections. All those are state certified. Due to the nature of our buildings, it's required for the jail to have their paperwork in order when they have their inspections, youth facility the same way. So that all comes from my department. The one project that we are working on, and I'm expecting to get engineering proposals back here next week, is the expansion of the evidence storage room in the lower level of the sheriff's office. They've kind of outgrown their space. Not a huge project. We got to move some walls and consolidate some areas in order to accommodate that expansion. Requires some engineering because of the size openings we're going to put in order to create walkways into other areas. Need some structural engineering. We got to put some beams in and so forth. That's really all I have for projects and updates. I just wanted to hit on snow removal, obviously timely. Yesterday we had a snow event, expecting another one this weekend. I just want to give you a little snapshot of our crew and what we do at an event like yesterday. Not a huge snow accumulation, but here on the complex we have about 16.5 acres of parking lots that we maintain and plow, and 3.5 miles of sidewalk and roadways that are our responsibility and not the city's of Charlotte. From December to current date, we've used about 30 tons of road salt and about 10 tons of sidewalk salt. So we do that with 2 groundskeepers full time. Luckily, our maintenance staff is cross-trained so they can assist on larger events, but just wanted to kind of give you guys a snapshot of when you see everything cleared off. I think they started about 4:30 or 5 yesterday morning to make sure everything was complete before the workday started. So, any questions? That concludes my update.
All right, thank you, Chad. Appreciate it. Item number 12, Full Faith and Credit Potter Drainage District. Do we have anyone here from the Drain Commission?
No, we do not.
All right. How should we take this on then?
So whenever there's drain construction, we have to they're gonna go out for bonds. The county has traditionally, and as long as I've been here, I don't know that we have not done this, provided its full faith and credit, so that it keeps the cost of those down. And it's obviously better for the homeowners, taxpayers, or the people who are being assessed. So in the event that something were to happen and there was no revenue that would come in and assessment was not done, the county, by pledging its full faith and credit, is saying it would make that payment on that particular year. But then this board also then would have the power to assess those taxes back to homeowners. Again, the reason that we do this is to maintain the stability for the residents so they're not paying more. It is a good thing to do, I'll say that. Melissa and I have what's called a due diligence call next week, as well as a Standard & Poor's rating call that they traditionally do on borrowing such as this. And then we will have, as all of you know, the bank intercounty. That's going to be the large one, so you're going to have this one coming to you for approval or consideration. And then we will have the bank intercounty drain, which will be 50 million, around 50 million. So again, it's something that my office would recommend, the board has always done, but any questions that anyone has, I can answer.
Commissioner Wright.
At one time, when we were doing somebody's guarantee, okay, we asked John Fuentes, how much are we obligated for and how much can we be obligated for? And I asked that because I do know that bank drain project is going to be quite large.
So we are well within the debt limit that the county has set, and Melissa could pull that up, but we are well within that, even including a $50-60 million project. So we're not going to go over that. Now, what I will say during this due diligence call that we're going to have in the Standard & Poor's rating, we're going to report on the county's current fund balance, the projected fund balance, and the financial difficulties going forward. I will say that because it is possible that our bond rating will go down. And if it does, that's potentially going to increase the cost. But it's something that we go through anytime we have a borrowing, and it's usually every year anyway. So we'll let you know when we find out. We should have the actual rating, I believe, back by the 29th of this month. Do you want to?
We are currently at about 8% of our statutory debt limitation. So, just so you know.
Thank you.
8.
Any other questions? Commissioner Christensen.
So you had said something about a phone call. Will the drain commissioner be part of that phone call?
The drain commissioner's office, yes, is part of the phone call, and as well as the treasurer, who will go over anything related to taxpayers. He's provided some information on that already for our due diligence call, as well as Melissa and I providing information on the county's finances.
Okay. Also, I'm trying to, as a new commissioner, learn as I go. I find it not so good that our drain commissioner is not here giving this report, and I appreciate you giving that for them. My question is, with these full faith bonds and that, is there a monetary limit on what we can get, and how many bonds does the drain commissioner currently have out?
Again, I don't know if Melissa can pull that up on the number of drain debt.
So, in looking at our debt, our statutory limit is our assessed taxable value. It is 1% or 1% of our assessed value. So that is the statutory limitation that we can borrow. We are, like I said, 8% of that, so we are substantially below what we could be. The total borrowings for the drain commissioner, I'm looking at our audit report, debt for 23-24, there are 42 bonds. Of those, it totals $68 million worth of original issuance. That is not what is currently still due. That amount is $38.7 million that is outstanding. Does that answer the question?
It helps, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. How do we proceed, Connie?
We would need a motion to move this to the full board.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll move it.
All right, moved by Commissioner Haskell, supported by Pearl Wright and Mark Moody. Any further discussion? Commissioner Barber.
I'm just going to make a statement that I think in our financial situation, I think it's not prudent for the county to enter a financial agreement, full faith of the bond, any further. That's where I stand. I don't think it's prudent at this time to proceed. Thank you.
All right. Should this not be approved, what are the ramifications of that?
It's just going to increase the cost of the borrowing. It's basically going to be on the homeowners. And Ben did an analysis, I don't know if you brought it up. He did an analysis, you're looking today at 2.3 million. When it comes to the Bank Intercounty drain, it's going to be substantially more for the county, because the county assumes costs for any project. Road Commission in the Bank Intercounty is going to be Delta Township. So you're actually increasing the amount of costs for those entities and obviously the homeowners. And there are not a lot of homeowners in the Bank Intercounty district. So that's, if full faith and credit isn't given, our Standard & Poor's rating goes down, those things all add up with an increased cost to the residents there. So if you want to just give an analysis, please.
Yeah, like Connie said, so this is based on the bank at a $60 million project, and then based on a 5% split between Ingham and Eaton, which I think will probably be closer to 2%, but I think those final figures should be coming out soon. So it would just depend on the amount of the interest increase, but a 0.25% interest rate deviation from 5%, which was the estimate I initially used, for Eaton County would be about $2,000 a month in terms of increase in payment, which is good because we got a $5 million grant that benefits everybody, plus we put 3.2 of our last ARPA dollars into the project. But for Road Commission, it'd be $8,200. Delta would be $24,000. Residents, about $56,000. So total, it would increase the debt payment a year, $91,000 for a 0.25 increase. And then it just goes, I did a 0.751, just so I could see what the gravity would look like, depending what the risk factor would be. But we wouldn't really know that until we talked to the bonding group and let them know that we wouldn't be extending it. And then I think they would build that into the market profile that they put out when entities come forward to buy our bond.
And remember that Bank Intercounty, this is usually over a 20-year period or less when you do, I call it a normal drain, but a project as large as Bank Intercounty is going to be financed over a 30-year period. So that makes a significant difference in what you're hitting with the homeowners over the course of those years.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Commissioner Moudry.
I just want to make a comment because I live in the Banks Drain District, okay? When you're looking at $60 million, okay, what we're looking at is bonding at about 5%. That's what we're kind of preparing for, okay? If we don't get the co-signing from the county, okay, the bonding just as Connie said, we won't be able to attain that 5%. It's going to probably go up, because when your kid buys the car and you're the co-signer, you know, if you don't have mom and dad there, the price of your car payments go up. Now, this is over, like Connie just said, 30 years. This isn't like you're going to be hit in 1 year to pay $60 million. It's spread out over 30 years. And the quality of the property owners is good. Okay, I don't think there's any deficiency in the quality of the homeowners. They're going to pay. They're going to, and so I just want to make sure that you understand how the bonding is done, and I don't think the county is going to be on the hook for any of the $60 million. I personally don't think so. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Anyone else? It is unfortunate that we don't have anybody from the Drain Commission office or the Drain Commissioner, because it's not just between the homeowner and the county. The townships each play a role in these drain projects too, and I can't explain it. I don't know if either of you can, but maybe for a later date. But anyway, all right, any more questions on the full faith and credit? All right, it's on the floor. Do we have, we'll have a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, it's passed. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to item number 13, budget amendments.
The only budget amendment that we have is for the Parks Department. They're looking at applying for a grant. We have not been successful in applying for a grant. Obviously, we know we have the millage. We wanted to, through the Parks Work Group, we wanted to have assistance with that, so we were more successful in identifying projects. It's going to cost us anywhere between $10,000 and $15,000. They have received some quotes. I don't have that data right now, but we would like to move that $15,000 so we can begin the application process.
Okay, and with the understanding that, yes, they have a millage, but those decisions still have to come before the board, so. Do we have a motion to accept this resolution?
I make a motion that we spend the dollars to get expertise help in filing for DNR Parks grants.
Okay, and do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, moved by Pearl Wright, seconded by Haskell. Any discussion?
I just want to add that typically, if we are successful even on one grant this year, then it will cover the cost of most of what we would like to be able to do with a DNR trust fund grant.
Yeah, the better the grant proposal is, obviously, we know, the better the more likely you are to get those funds. The county will pay 25% of whatever we receive, similar to what we did with Crandall and any other grants that we've done in the past. The idea behind the millage, one of the things that you wanted to be able to do was to leverage grant funds as much as you could, but the county hasn't always had the funds available to pay that 25%. So doing a grant and having the millage will allow us the better flexibility.
Any other questions? All right, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion is passed, thank you. That's all we have under budget amendments, correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Item number 14, miscellaneous. We have University of Olivet School Resource Officer proposal, and Sheriff Wright is here to discuss, or tell us about it.
Morning, Commissioners. I was approached last month by Olivet University regarding having a school resource officer full-time at their university. We met with them. They obviously found a grant through the state of Michigan called Safety
which is through the Michigan State Police grant coordinators. I've spoke with them. I understand we need a chair signature on this application. However, speaking with the coordinator at the state police, they said they can go ahead and submit it without the signature, and if it is granted, the Board of Commissioners still has the authority to either accept it or deny the grant. So, to me, not knowing what the future is going to bring for our May election on the public safety millage, I look at it as a win-win either way. One way is if the millage does pass, we're good. There's another position there. If it doesn't pass, then I saved one deputy position. That's how I look at it. Now, with this application, I understand the numbers aren't exactly correct. There's probably going to be some more money that's going to be added to that, but at least this is a beginning. And if I could have Olivet University come on up here and speak on it.
Hello, and thank you for your time. I am Katie Perry. I serve as the Associate Provost for Student Development at the University of Olivet, and I am here today to express my strong support for the Byron State Crisis Intervention Program grant in collaboration with Eaton County Sheriff's Office. This grant furthers the U.S. Department of Justice Bureau of Justice Assistance mission of achieving safer communities by assisting state, local, and tribal efforts to prevent and reduce crime and violence, particularly gun violence. The synergetic alignment between the grant's outcomes and our ongoing collaboration with Eaton County was precise and clear in reviewing the grant materials. This initiative directly reflects our commitment to expanding our partnership with Eaton County's Sheriff's Department to promote campus safety, enhance emergency preparedness, and ensure that our institution fully utilizes the vital resources available through Eaton County Sheriff's Office. This work embodies the longstanding commitment of collaboration between our two organizations. In my nearly 13 years at the University of Olivet, I recall the office door that proudly displayed Eaton County's logo where the former McKay Gymnasium stood. Most recently, I got to meet Kelly with Eaton County 911 as we adopted the Rave Alert system offered through Eaton County. Our collaboration is not new. Higher institutions today face increasingly complex safety challenges, making collaboration between law enforcement agencies and universities more critical than ever. At the University of Olivet, we have prioritized active and proactive approaches to safety and security, and our ongoing work with the Eaton County Sheriff's Office is exemplified through the Safety Grant. This embodies the power of strategic partnership in strengthening our campus environment. Through this grant, we look forward to furthering our collaborative efforts to implement effective crisis intervention strategies, improve emergency response capabilities, and foster a safe, supportive learning community for our students, faculty, and staff. We firmly believe that strong partnerships make us all better. The Byron SCIP grant represents the opportunity to deepen our shared commitment to safety and well-being. It ensures that the University of Olivet remains a place where students can focus on learning personal growth with continued confidence in their security. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Brad Baker. I'm the Director for Campus Safety at the University of Olivet. I have many instances of collaboration personally working with Eaton County Sheriff's Department. It is so beneficial for the safety of our students as well as the surrounding area. Having that satellite office in the past has kept a deputy in that area to respond quicker to emergencies. By putting this grant through and then putting someone in our campus, on our campus, stationed in our campus, and having a dedicated office there would allow a quicker time for that entire area, not just the University of Olivet. We are looking and asking for this grant to be approved for that reason, for the overall safety of everybody in the southern border of Eaton County, as well as the response time that's going to be needed if we ever have a crisis situation where we have to have deputies coming to our campus in that manner. Where Eaton County sits, where Olivet sits, where you guys will be dispatching your deputies from now is a very timely response. It is well beyond any kind of active shooter response to have them there at this point in time. We will be dealing with casualties in that part without having an armed officer there to actually take on an intruder and an aggressor. That's really where I'm coming from. I'm here to ask to help secure safety for our university, the township that we live in, Olivet Schools, has a resource officer, but to add that extra officer down there for all of the schools and as well as the surrounding areas. Thank you.
Thank you.
As you commissioners are aware, active violence occurs everywhere in the state of the United States. And it even happened in Michigan a few times already. It's very important that we have SROs, and we're hoping that this will go through. And I understand the financial difficulties this county is going through. That's why we're doing a public safety millage. The time has come. Should have been done long ago, but we're doing it now. The Controller's Office, give her a lot of credit for doing this now, and you commissioners for moving forward with it. So I appreciate your support.
All right. I'm just going to mention this before we move along, but, and this is a tough one, because I said I'm public safety since I became a commissioner. I know how, what a great force we have here in Eaton County. I know what our public safety is. But considering the current financial uncertainty of our county and our ability to continue to provide police service contracts without additional revenue, I cannot move this because I don't think we should enter in a memorandum of agreement with the University of Olivet or any other entity that would require the hiring of personnel or transfer of road patrol personnel. And again, this is a tough decision, but we just can't guarantee this. The timing is off right now for Eaton County. I mean, if we had the millage last fall had passed, it would be an entirely different situation. So that being said, we have a request, and I will leave that up to the members of the board what you want to do next. All right, Commissioner Haskell.
Sheriff Reich, real quick question to you. You mentioned that some of the numbers would change between now and then in your introduction. Can you go a little bit deeper into that?
The agreement now is a little low. We're gonna have to raise that up a little bit.
Okay.
That's the numbers for a deputy.
Okay. Okay, I understand. And then sitting and working towards some sort of agreement today, is there any possibility that, you know, we can put this idea into a position where if the millage does not pass, that an existing officer could be taking that instead of going out and seeking a new hire to work at Olivet?
This is a grant position with the state.
Right.
The deadline is 12 noon today.
Ah.
That's the difficulty. I don't think there's a chance of getting this grant at another time.
This would have to go to the board if you're going to, which is not until next Wednesday.
Okay. I'm not hearing a motion. Oh, Commissioner Barber?
Really, it's not for you, Sheriff, it's really for the college. Did, you know, Olivet has a police force. Did you get with Olivet and they turn you down on this, or?
No, they approached me on this position. They found that there's a grant available for this SRO, and they approached me on it. I look at it as being favorable. We know what happens across the country. I don't want this happening in my county, these acts of violence.
I don't either, Sheriff, but I was just asking, you know, like, there is a police force there in the city, and I was just wondering how come they didn't go to them first, or if they did, why did Olivet turn around? That's the only reason, that's the only question I had. Thank you.
I really don't want to get into that. There's reasons, but I don't want to get into that.
Commissioner Christensen.
How much of the cost will the grant cover?
It'll cover a full deputy's position as well as a vehicle, I believe, and then there were some other expenditures on that grant that will assist the university in cameras, I believe. Yeah, come on.
Sorry, I think if we're going to put it out there, we need to be very transparent, being there is a millage on the ballot.
So the current proposal, it has $177,500 allocated to the position. I was working with Captain Block to confirm that that was the correct number. In my work with grants previously, you have a 10% allocation that you can swing without permission, or you can work with the agency if it was approved. The additional funds would go to about $15,000 for trauma kits to be installed, so that way we are equipped on campus to respond. It would be a sub-award to the university, the remaining amount to get to the $400,000, including improvements to our training on campus, utilizing the expertise of Eaton County Sheriff's Office at those large-scale events, making sure our faculty, our staff, our students know what is Eaton County going to do when they arrive here? What do we need to do to help them be most successful at de-escalating a situation? And then also the surveillance cameras and digital badging entrances to what we identify as the most likely targeted situations. How can we lock down our facilities quicker to reduce the threat? Sir, to address your other question that you asked, one of the reasons for that was when I reviewed the grant application materials, it did not specify city. It specified Eaton County, it specified a county jurisdiction. And so when I read it as like the examples that it gave, I defaulted to county, and I knew that we had a long history with Eaton County. I know that Brad has talked to Officer Garcia about it as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
I make a motion, we approve this.
Okay, it's been moved. Do we have support? I'm sorry, what? Okay, all right. It's been moved and supported. Do we have discussion now? Any comments, questions? Again, this, my perspective, the timing is bad, and I apologize to the Sheriff's Department, I apologize to Olivet University. Financially, what we're looking at today, we can't afford this in the county. And we won't have that answer for financial support until after May 6th. So my recommendation is to not move forward with it, but if there's no more discussion, we'll go forward with the vote. So any other questions? Nicole, or Commissioner Christensen?
Actually, I do have one more question. How many years does that grant cover this officer in question?
The grant begins August of this year and goes through December of 2026.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Haskell.
I guess my final question, and I've kind of already touched on this a little bit, there's no way to kind of slow play this to like when the actual enforcement, the hiring would take place, would be after the millage vote?
The grant, as they stated, would not begin until August. So you could go through the grant process. If it's awarded, you can choose to not accept the award and put an officer there, or choose to accept it. Now, the only thing I'm going to say is throughout the whole process of our financial considerations, the very first proposal we had together, which was tax limitation at 3 mills and now public safety at 2 mills, the board was telling the public that we would not do contracts if we didn't have the additional revenue. The reason for that, and the intent of the board, and Chairman Mott could speak to this, is that if the county does not have a police force, you do not have a sheriff's office for road patrol holistically, then you're entering into contracts to serve specific communities. And at the time, that was stated that that wasn't the way to do business. The county does take on the whole responsibility. We continue to carry the cost of the unfunded liability going on. And we charge some of that to any entity that we contract with. But again, that liability grows, and you've seen our retirees' health, you've also seen our MERS actuarial valuations that continue to go up. Again, those are things that, excuse me, that we're working on and trying to reduce costs as we go ahead. But you're talking about, and again, this is up to the board, but we stated at every meeting we went to that if the millage didn't pass, the first one and this one, that we were not going to be able to contract. So I just want to be clear, especially to those watching, because we've been receiving those questions. Logan Bailey, Communications Director, has received those questions, basically saying, you're not providing services to the what everybody calls the out county. It's really to the whole residents of Eaton County, and you're providing it only to those that are paying for it. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. We all know that Ingham County went through that process years ago. I'm just saying what everyone has stated. So just be clear, those are the questions that we're getting on a daily basis, I would say. I don't know if Chairman Mott had anything.
So that special meeting we had Thursday, we've been getting calls all weekend long, emails about it. They're not being represented in that district, and this goes along those same lines. The public is not being represented in the sheriff's office and rural patrol. You can explain it until you're blue in the face, but there's reasons for that because we're short staff. So this is a really crappy situation that we're in. But the public has decided that they don't want to fund certain areas. And that was, public safety was one of them. Now hopefully, and we're doing everything we can to educate, and hopefully this goes through, the public safety goes through. But to provide a public safety and a contract for a specific place, now I went to Olivet, and I love that place. I live there. So this is really tough for me because I think sheriff and undersheriff, how important public safety is to me and the sheriff's department. But to go to the public, I know what's going to happen if we approve this. The public is going to come, especially Out County, to us and say, oh, I thought you didn't have any money. Even though this is a grant, more than likely there will be added funds, and everything has to go through the controller's office. And the next item on the agenda, I'm going to go through and I'm going to tell you just how bad it is here. So this really, really stinks. But this is the position we're in. And my fear is that there's going to be more funds, there's going to be more time that's going to be required for this. There's really nothing, a whole lot more I can say, but I know we're going to get some flack from the public if this goes through. And it may even hurt the millage, public safety millage. That's just based on all the stuff I went through this weekend. So that's the information I got.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Any other comments, questions? All righty, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? All those opposed?
No.
Aye. All right, do we need a roll call vote to clarify? Okay. This motion has failed, and I thank you, everyone. My apologies to the university. Again, the timing was just bad. All right, moving forward, item number B, courthouse hours of operation.
So this is not going to be pleasant, but it needs to be done. We've had some meetings earlier this week with department heads, meetings with controller's office, and I've been mentioning how bad staff is here, and it's getting worse because people are leaving. And so we had to come up with some ideas to take some first steps about reducing hours, time, and stuff like that, and see how that works, and start with that first. So there's a list of stuff we talked about. I'll go through it, and at any time you want to jump in, Connie or Ben, please do, clarify or add stuff to it, okay? So I've instructed the controller's office to close the office on Thursday, February 20th, and Tuesday, February 25th, to work on the upcoming budget and related work projects. This is a priority. They're having very, very difficult time getting work done that they need to get done, and they're getting farther and farther behind because of having to meetings and other things. On these days, the controller's office is not available to the public and is limited in accessibility to departments and elected officials. We've always had the open door policy to residents, elected officials, and department heads, and that must change this budget cycle. The controller's office is dealing with an unprecedented amount of work, and we are directing the controller's office to prioritize their time by having individuals schedule their meetings in advance. Last-minute meetings will no longer be without notice. They must stop. That goes for us as commissioners, too. Where did I leave off? Please call and schedule a time to ensure your request gets the kind of attention you're expecting, and this goes for residents and departments. These changes do not require committee or board approval. Because of these unprecedented times, I'm recommending the board change the hours of operation for the entire administrative wing of the courthouse. The administrative side of the building will only be open to the public from 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And offices will all be closed to the public from 8 to 5 on Fridays. Staff will still be working 40 hours a week, but they will always be open to the public. No, but they will not, excuse me, be open to the public. This will help our short-staffed offices serve the public more efficiently and effectively. Offices will be closed uniformly from 12 to 1 for lunch. And due to the staffing shortages, offices have difficulty covering lunch breaks. Closed to the public on Fridays, and this is going to be the big change. Employees can catch up on Monday through Thursday work that staffing shortages created. Most of our offices are beyond short-staffed. This change will reduce stress, structure the overwhelming workload to more manageable levels, and hopefully help the county retain employees because they are leaving. We have a lot of tough work ahead of us. Let's do it right by our employees. We will be on the agenda. This will be on the agenda in this month's full board meeting. Now, the staff was pretty receptive to this, and like I said, we're going to see how this works, and hopefully this will reduce some stress and hopefully keep some people. I look at this and I was thinking about it, and I kind of think in word pictures, or I like word pictures or analogies. And one of them that came up to me when I was thinking of, and we've all heard the World War II stories or saw the movies where the bomber was going out on a flight for a mission. And on the return flight home, they're running out of fuel. And the crew is instructed to dump everything that's non-essential. That's where we are, so we don't crash. So our mindset has to change, because everything that's brought before us, I don't blame the sheriff's office, I don't blame any department that wants to come and ask things of us to add. I would do it too. So don't blame it one bit. However, in the situation we are in and going forward, even if somehow we have a surplus at the end of this fiscal year, we have no more money coming in. And prices, inflation, it's all going to go up. So we're going to have some very big struggles. So as difficult as this is, I'm sad, I'm angry, because we can't do the things that we need to do to help the public and keep them safe. And we got some more tough, really tough decisions ahead of us. So thank you. And just keep in mind when you're trying to call the offices and need some information, just keep in mind their time and be respectful of controller's time. I'm gonna talk about you and your position, Melissa. You are very, very valuable to this board and this community and the county. And I hope you know how appreciative I am and we are of you. And I'm pointing her out because she sought after and she could leave for higher pay, better hours, a whole lot of less stress. But if we lost Melissa, controller's office would be lost. So I know this is a downer, but that's real. And so I want to thank the departments, and it's tough. But I want to thank the department heads and what you're doing, and it's tough decisions that you have to make too. So I'm going to leave that up to you.
Yeah, thank you. If you're okay with it, we would invite departments to come up and share just how this might impact their teams and kind of, you know, what you're currently working on and thoughts that you have about what was just proposed or discussed.
Thank you. Since I heard about this potential changing of hours, I've had time to think about it, and I am in support of it for my 2 offices in the administrative wing. I really believe this is going to help us take a deep dive and examine our offices and determine what we can do. We have to be very creative in finding ways to do more with less. And my hope is that we'll find these creative solutions because I know we have to preserve costs and reduce costs. And so I'm thinking this is a good step towards that.
Thank you.
Excuse me, good morning, Amy Etzel from the court. I just wanted to say that, you know, we were part of the discussions this week, and I've certainly talked with our chief judge with regards to the considerations the county is making for administration offices, and we are also looking at things from the court's perspective on what we can also implement, potentially the lunch hours and the shortened 8:30 to 4:30 hours that we would operate. A little bit more complex for the court side of things, that we would have to go through the state court administrative office with regards to changing any schedule that we would be open to the public and doing some administrative orders that would require approval. But we are certainly looking at that for our side, the impact we would have to accessibility for the public, and looking at currently how we restructure our court hearings and docket schedules, and coordinating for other departments such as the prosecutor's office and the public defender's office as well. But certainly we are taking those into consideration, and certainly I'm sure we will have an update for the controller's office as to where things would go with regards to the courts and any changes we would make to try to coordinate with what the county would be doing on the administration wing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can just mention that we did have really good discussion at our executive team meeting, and everybody is working hard to look at their offices, make sure that they can make reductions where they're able to. I just know in the administrative wing, we have positions that haven't been filled. We also have technology and our facilities management, my office. Those 3 offices serve the county, all of the employees, all of the departments. Technology, we know, is a huge part of this county. We all rely on Eric and his team. We've had a lot of discussions on changes that would occur there. Eric has a difficult time, I'm calling him out, saying no to people. We work the same type of hours, so I know that he's very dedicated. But we are having challenges with reduced staff in all departments. And in technology, we're behind the curve not in technology, but in staff. So I have talked to Eric. He is going to have to make changes, as well as Nathan. I'll call Nathan out too, because Nathan does an awful lot of things for other agencies. I've mentioned it before, and I believe Eric has. These individuals or agencies pull into Nathan's driveway. You are not going to ever get service like that. Things like that are going to have to change. We don't have the resources to continue to do that. And we talk about Melissa and losing someone in a finance position. And it's difficult to find anyone in governmental finance. It's difficult. But in technology, there's a huge struggle there. So it's awful. So having any loss there from stress, which they have, and Eric and I talk about it a lot, and again, I'm just looking at his face right now. It's a struggle, and he could lose any of his staff. And if they're listening, please don't go. Bear with us as we go through this horrible time, but they are amazing, and we don't want to lose them. And I'll say the same with Chad. We lost people years ago. We have not brought back people in facilities, and he told you this morning he has 2 groundskeepers. He has people that are cross-training. We have a custodial crew that is really good at what they do, but they don't have the resources to do the cleaning that a building like this and all the other buildings that you're responsible for, they don't have the ability to do that. We put out our own trash. We dust our own offices. When I started here, all of that was done. I'm not complaining about doing those things, but when you're walking out of the building at, 4:45, you see garbage. You see that on your board night. Garbage up and down the hall. They don't have time to go in and empty every trash bin that's in the offices. They don't have time to clean the way that we should expect them, vacuuming every office, saving our carpet. Got a lot of complaints about new carpet in the hallways because we were looking at budget cuts. That carpet was, I don't know the number of years Chad and I tried to find, but I've been here a very long time. It's been here a very long time. So we need to make changes. We'll make continued changes. Chad and Eric are always looking at things they can do differently, but it's not going to be easy. So this is just a way on our side of the building and in those entities that we can make positive changes maybe in the offices and not lose staff, as Chairman Mott said. I don't want to do it. I don't like doing it. We've had this discussion probably over the last year about doing it. We've held off. I think we're at a point where we can't do that anymore. And we'll obviously discuss the hours of operation because you set those for the county buildings, this building primarily. So I don't know if Ben had anything to say. He might be a lot more wordy than me. And I'm wordy enough.
I just wanted to add that really, if this is moved at the board next month and we set a date next week and it's implemented in the coming months, the thing to think about is we're not looking to try to reduce the level of service that members of the public have become accustomed to. We're trying to match the level of service we can provide to the resources we have. So I think for a long time, employees have been stepping up, putting in extra work, putting the sacrifice on them to continue this idea that we could provide this level of service, and our team's exhausted. And we're understaffed, and every year technology becomes more complicated. The risks and attacks that we have to be able to fend off become more complicated. Every time we add a new office, a new grant, it adds another layer of complexity that has to be managed well in order to just do the bare functions of our offices. So I just want to put that out there. This is why we started with a general fund revenue solution in November, and it was voted down. Even if the May millage passes, it doesn't mean that the hours are going to revert back, because we're trying to look at ways to make general fund savings in operational efficiencies within departments and giving people a day to catch up because they're short-staffed. We're asking members of the public, prioritize your needs in the 4 days that you're open to the public, so that if we're running short-staffed, we have that extra day to catch up. So we're ready to process your needs during the 4 days in the coming week. So I just wanted to put that out there. A lot of feedback we got was, we think you should do more before you come ask for money. Well, this is us doing that step and those processes that a lot of people wanted to see before they ever saw the tax allocation. But this is just the order of operations. I know in November means that we have to make decisions today.
Commissioner Barber.
Yes, I would just, did we do the analysis on the lunch break, right? Do these offices get more people in between 11 and noon or noon and 1? I'm just saying is if we're gonna close to the public on a whole day, we just need to be cognizant of when we're in the service business, right? So we gotta provide a service. I just wanna make sure that, like noon to 1 isn't the high time for, let's just say, the clerk's office, and then we go ahead and close it from noon to 1, plus not on Fridays. That's just my concern is we're in the service of people that work hard every day.
Yes, that was a topic of discussion. Noon to 1 obviously is the time that most people go to lunch. So that leaves the office short-staffed. There was back and forth between noon to 1 or 1 to 2. Noon to 1 is where we settled. It was a consensus. Keep in mind, I'll use the county clerk as an example. She can schedule appointments. So if somebody needed something, she could schedule an appointment from 12 to 1. And I can say that our clerk is a working clerk. She's in the office every day. She works. You go over there, you're going to have the clerk waiting at the counter. You don't see that everywhere. So, and she's doing that because she doesn't have staff to cover lunches. That's a huge issue within smaller offices. People are entitled to vacation. They need vacation because they're stressed. People get sick. We talked about a new sick law that we're having to implement. It's a lot for departments, but the 12 to 1 was what we had settled on. Obviously, that's going to be up to the board. And if you want us to get, a narrative from each of those offices, excuse me, I will. But I know that they're all willing to set appointments as well.
All right. Any other comment? Oh, sorry, Commissioner Pearl-Wright.
Okay, the one thing that I want people to understand if they're listening from the public is that we have to do something. So I'm assuming that our staff will, even though if we go the 8:30 to 4:30, are they gonna, I heard 40 hours still, so they're gonna be 8 to, they actually will be 8 to 5.
Correct.
But that allows the public to wait until 8:30 to start coming to the doors.
Correct.
Okay, so that's workable. It gives them a time to get their things in order that they didn't get yesterday when they left at 5, hopefully. So I'm in favor of that. That's fine. I might say that I'm glad you said that about appointments, because I made a note here thinking that maybe 12:30 to 1:30 would accommodate for somebody to come down here at noon when they get out, or that they would know to leave like 10 minutes from their job early so that they'd be able to, but that's up to you. It was just an idea. 12:30 to 1:30 is more odd. And the last one that I want to make sure is people, when they see the millage, that is for, if you read the resolution, for road patrol and that associated staff and the prosecutor's office. So what we're doing right now, trying to look at different courthouse operating hours is because that millage that's coming up in May does not affect the other type departments. So it's a restricted millage. We can't move it around.
So I want to say something on that so that everybody's clear, because we have received some questions. I want to make sure that we understand when we say that we're providing road patrol. You're looking at eliminating road patrol. This millage doesn't pass, it's gone. So whatever the dollar amount of road patrol is, and I believe what I had looked up was about $8 million, that's for next year in our estimate. We'll get better numbers, obviously. You're still looking at saying that you're saving the general fund money. It's not to put money into the general fund. It's to say that the only way we can provide road patrol to the entire county is through this millage. You're not saying that you're going to take $10 million and spread it between animal control, the prosecutor's office, and the sheriff's office. That's not logical. That's not responsible. So you're looking at trying to ensure that you are not spending more money than what we should, if that makes sense. Again, I'll go back to what Ben said. The tax limitation was to do a holistic approach to save road patrol, the courts, the prosecutor's office, and every other office in this county, and the other agencies that we provide funding to. So the public safety millage, again, we're getting that money in, but it is not all going to public safety. It's going to keep us from eliminating services, if that makes sense.
I have one more question.
Sorry.
When Amy was here at the podium, I wrote down a question, and she said she still had to get approval from the state court administrator's office. Is there any other county yet that has done something similar to this, so that state court administrator's office has already had to deal with a situation?
So there are different operating hours at other counties. I do not know, and our court administrator was going to check to see if anyone had done a closure. Logically, when we met yesterday outside of our executive team, the courts are a different beast, right? Because they're serving the public in a different fashion. You're keeping people through the process as quick as possible. That's what you're trying to do. You don't want people sitting there not going to trial. You want them moving through the court system. So that is going to be a challenge right there. Fridays is a busy day, or can be a busy day. They may be able to move some things around, but we're not putting that pressure on the court given the uniqueness of what they do. Again, Amy and I talked yesterday. She's had a conversation with our chief judge. They will talk to Scale, and they'll talk to the other judges. They'll do what they can do. But if they have court on a day, I know the prosecutor is looking at doing the same model that we are administratively. Friday will be a little bit challenging. They can close to the public, not accept calls, do their work, but still go to court, the prosecuting attorney's office. Public defender does the same thing, right? So you're not preventing the public from receiving services. You're just changing the hours of operation to take the pressure off the people who are dealing with the public, right? If that makes sense. Did I handle that well, Amy? She's nodding yes. Thank you.
So on Fridays, sometimes, depending on what state court administrator's office says, will we still have people coming through that door, going through security, going to that end?
Right now, if we were to make this change effective this month or the 1st of March,
Yeah.
the idea that we have is that everything stays the same out there, and our wing here is gated off.
Oh.
Offices are closed, locked, and that's how we operate on the times that we're closed. So it's not going to disrupt the judicial side of the building, the prosecutor's office. they'll still have the traffic and accept the public in when they need to and under the requirements of the chief judge and the state court administrator's office.
Okay, so will probate also be open? So if somebody wants to come in because of an estate deal or something, or friend of the court situation, so that would still be operational?
Yes, and there is a uniqueness, again, to friend of the court that we just learned of yesterday. So there's certain things that they have to do, and their hours of operation have to be specific potentially, and they're going to research that. We're just not going to put this on the courts yet. That, again, is a really difficult thing for the courts to just take action on. We really just want to see this change in the administrative wing, and we want to see changes in the service that Chad's office is providing, facilities, and also what Eric Daly and his team in network or technology is doing.
So isn't Chad's office gonna have to still plow the parking lots at 4:30?
There were, again, remember, if we close, we are still working 8 to 5.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So Chad still has.
Yes, but could Chad change what he's doing on a Friday as far as dealing with maintenance? They could schedule things and not disrupt certain offices if they have to be in the offices to do work. So there are things that we're working out, and we have a great team, and everybody is looking at it, and everybody is being creative. So, but we're going to learn from this. It's something to see what we can do to make the county function within its means.
Old saying, work in progress.
Yes.
And Gene, if you have connections, we'd appreciate if it wouldn't snow at all the rest of the year, so,
I'm looking for that palm tree, I'll let you know.
okay. Any other questions, comments, Commissioner Holmes?
I think the discussion about the lunch hour, the public is the one that's choosing or not choosing to finance this better. It's going to be the ball in their court to arrange their schedule to meet what we have to do here for the administrative section. That's just I don't think there's that many people would be so restricted that they can't adjust their schedule. There's some, obviously, but for the most part, I think big majority can adjust their schedule to come in here to do what we need to do here.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right, do we need to take action on this?
As Chairman Mott said, he wants this on the full board agenda. If you want to make that motion to recommend it, then we could do that.
I will make that motion that we move it to the full board.
Support.
Okay, support by Commissioner Haskell. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? All right, thank you, everyone. Item 15, we must still pay our bills. Where's Broading Lotzenheiser? Do we have a
Move to
motion?
pay the bills.
Motion moved and supported, Commissioner Haskell and Commissioner Wright. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, moved and passed. And now to the item 16, 25-26 budget schedule.
So when we were developing our budget schedule, because we are aware that there is financial difficulties and there is going to be some contentious issues, we wanted to provide extra room in the budget schedule for departments to present their requests and to have time with board members so that they can analyze their entire operations. So you'll see on here that there are quite a few more meetings than there has been historically. So basically what I'm proposing on this is that 2 weeks after every Ways and Means meeting, we have a special board meeting just for budget discussions. And that will allow our Ways and Means regular meeting to not go quite so lengthy with just budget discussions. So if there's any.
I will just say that in the past, when we've had meetings scheduled, if the process goes smoothly, which that would be great this year, I'm not sure it will, we can always cancel a meeting. We don't have to have every one of the meetings unless it's something that's required, i.e. the board meeting for the adoption of the general fund operating millage. But any of the other meetings that are extra, like Melissa indicated, we could not have.
So this is tentative at this
Yes.
point. All right, very good. Okay, do we need a motion on this?
Yes.
All right, do we have a motion?
I move.
All right, Commissioner Haskell, or Hanson,
Support.
supported by Commissioner Haskell. Any discussion?
The start times for these meetings, are they
The same, it's 9
9
a.m.
9 a.m.? Okay.
We'll add that before it goes to the board. This will also go to the board.
Okay.
Board meetings at 6 and 9 a.m. for this meeting.
Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none.
When we bring it up at the full board meeting, we need to remind the people who are not actually on Ways and Means Committee assignment that they also come to the budget, all these scheduled, once we start the budget process.
Absolutely. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, motion is passed. All right, we are down to item 17, limited public comment. If you have something you'd like to say to the Ways and Means Committee, here's your chance. All right, seeing none, we are going to go to closed session at this point, so we appreciate your attendance here, everyone. And we still have work to do behind closed doors.
Gotta move it first.
Yeah, but before we move it,
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to move into closed session under section 15.268, section 8, item E of the Open Meetings Act to discuss the settlement strategy in connection with the pending litigation in the matter of the 56th Eaton County Judicial Circuit Case number 25-44-CZ. It's Timothy Moreau Vetter versus Eaton County. And to review material subject to attorney-client privilege under MCL 15.243, Part 1, Part G, and it requires a roll call vote.
do we have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Haskell. All right, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Haskell.
Yes.
Commissioner Pearlwright.
Yes.
Commissioner Moudry.
Yes?
Commissioner Holmes. Commissioner Barber. Commissioner Drosha.
Yes. All right, door's still open. So we have a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to accept the settlement agreement as suggested by legal counsel for case 2544CZ.
All right, do we have a second? Who's, Mark? Okay, so moved by Commissioner Haskell, supported by Commissioner Moudry. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, moved, and that is passed.
Because we're out of closed session.
I'm sorry, what? Yeah, unless somebody has any other thing to say, we're moving towards adjournment.
Brian, do you notice it says on air over there? I don't know if that was on during closed session. I didn't.
It's always on,
Oh, thank you.
but the actual broadcast was not.
Yep.
Okay.
They put that on as a placeholder for those that are hanging on every word we say on YouTube. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.